What if I told you that there's a way to exercise and exercise consistently without making any huge changes to your calendar? If you're always busy, then this might sound impossible. But if the growing scientific research on the concept of exercise snacking keeps trending the way it is, then not only is it possible, but it might be the exercise strategy of the future. And I really mean that. Let's talk about it. First, let's get one thing out of the way. Exercise snacking, unfortunately, has nothing to do with being delicious, nor do you have to pretend you forgot to add it into your calorie counting app. Instead, it mostly has to do with time. Finding time to exercise can be very hard, and if you're super busy all the time, the idea of dedicating an hour a day to essentially work on yourself is a bit of a luxury. But what if we can afford ourselves a bit of flexibility with time? Well, that's what researchers hope can be accomplished with exercise snacks. Basically, with exercise snacks, instead of doing one long workout, we break the workout into multiple snack-size workouts. Workouts that are small enough to stick into different parts of our day without having to make any noticeable changes to our schedule. Essentially, we're squeezing in a quick workout wherever we can, like between work meetings, classes, during lunch breaks, and so on. This can then provide plenty of flexibility for exercise, which can be a huge game changer for a lot of people. But of course, the obvious question we want to ask is it actually an effective way to exercise? Well, if all the recent studies covering exercise snacks are anything to go by, then the general answer is a very resounding yes. But the more specific answer is, although it's generally great, the effectiveness does vary depending on what you're trying to achieve. First and foremost, for general health, exercise snacking has shown to provide essentially the same health benefits as traditional exercise. Benefits like improved blood pressure, cognitive performance, heart health, mood, and even associated reductions of cancer and mortality rates. So pretty solid if you just want to be healthy. Next, let's talk about everyone's favorite exercise, boring and tedious cardio. Now, exercise snacks are great for cardio as well, but some studies suggest that it might actually be even better. One found that exercise snacking was superior to traditional exercise in improving VO2 peak outputs, which is a measurement of one's cardiorespiratory fitness. Another study found that when adjusted for time, shorter bouts of exercise likely consumes 20 to 60% more oxygen than longer steady-state exercise. This implies that shorter exercise bouts might be more metabolically demanding, which would then imply that exercise snacks might help us burn more calories. What I personally found extra interesting is how researchers believe it all works. You know how your gas mileage is usually worse driving in the city compared to driving in the highway? Well, that's mostly because of the higher fuel cost of all the accelerating and stopping we do in the city compared to just cruising at a fixed speed on the highway. The belief is that this concept also loosely applies to the start and stop nature of exercise snacks. In other words, exercise snacks is a less energy efficient way to exercise compared to steady state exercise, which strangely is a good thing if we want to burn more calories. Now, full disclosure, this concept is based on very preliminary results. The concept might make sense, but we still have a way to go in terms of actual evidence showing a clear calorie difference. But it'll be pretty cool if being less efficient in something finally pays off for once. Speaking of payoff, let's now talk about muscle and strength, which are the two areas that exercise snacking, unfortunately, have yet to show any real payoff. Now, this has more to do with the current data than anything else. Thing is, when exploring any new concepts like exercise snacking, researchers try to first focus on just the health-related benefits. And the way they go about that is to 1. Experiment with sedentary populations where health is top priority, and 2. Keep the experiments fairly simple by using basic exercises or cardio. That's essentially where we are right now in the research on exercise snacks. Hopefully, the positive trend we see in the research continues for things like muscle and strength, but we'll have to wait and see. Finally, there's one more benefit we gotta talk about. The benefits where I personally believe makes exercise snacking one of the most promising fitness strategies we've seen in a very long time. In almost all the studies covering this, exercise snacking has shown to be vastly superior to traditional exercise in terms of adherence. People simply have a much easier time with exercise when breaking it down to shorter bouts. In fact, with exercise snacks, one study achieved a 1 100% adherence rate for an intervention that lasted 6 months. That's almost completely unheard of in scientific research. For a traditional exercise, adherence rate was 68%. Again, we see this pattern across the entire scientific literature. Some of the reported reasons people prefer exercise snacks are that it's easier to do, it's less boring, and of course, it's easier to fit into their lifestyle. Now, this might sound a bit bold, but because of how well people can stick to it, I genuinely believe that exercise snacking has the potential to be the exercise format of the future. Thing is, what's keeping a lot of people from reaching their fitness goals is not that they don't know what to do. Instead, it's just doing anything in the first place. So if we can offer an alternative that addresses a core issue preventing people to start exercising, like the lack of time, then that's absolutely huge. Sure, it'll be nice to get more answers on how effective exercise snacks can be for muscles, strength, more advanced populations, and so on, but we first gotta get people started. And I don't think any new strategy is capable of doing it as effectively as exercise snacking. At least that's how I feel, but I'd love to hear what you guys think. Please drop a comment and let me know if you think I'm making sense or am I getting way too ahead of myself. Okay, let's say that exercise snacking has now piqued a bit of your interest. So how do we actually go about it? Fortunately, there does seem to be just enough scientific data to at least give us a basic outline. First, you want to try to maintain a similar total exercise time when dividing things up. For example, if you worked out about an hour a day before, then all your snacks should also add up to about an hour each day. Now, the cool thing is that the research successfully used a wide range of exercise durations from less than 2 minutes all the way to 10 minutes. So how long each of your workouts last is pretty much up to you. As for the exercise itself, as long as space and equipment permits, you can do the same exercises as you normally would at the gym. You also want to maintain the same level of effort, but since you're probably going to have more time to recover, you might want to push effort even higher wherever possible. Now, despite the lack of data, I do think we can make exercise snacks somewhat work for muscle and strength goals if we apply the usual muscle and strength guidelines. Guidelines like keeping intensity high, training close to failure, and progressively increasing volume. I can't exactly say how effective this can be compared to traditional training, but it's definitely better than nothing. Of course, you also have to consider which exercises you can actually do in a smaller time frame. Heavy barbell squats, where you have to drive to the gym, warm up, and rack the weights, probably won't work. But maybe with some bands or adjustable dumbbells, you can do a few accessory exercises for one set each all the way to failure. And that's about all you got to consider with exercise snacks. Really, it's not going to deviate all that much from your usual training. It's just basically splitting it up into smaller bouts. And with that, we essentially covered all we currently know about exercise snacking. It might be super new, but I do think it's super promising. Again, I would love to hear what you think about it all. Either way, I think it'll be awesome if we can finally solve one of our biggest fitness issues of all time. Time. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a timely thumbs up and share it with your snack-loving friends. Subscribe for more, and please definitely let me know what you think in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, and don't forget to get your protein.